Points that could be the reason of World War III. World need to avoid these things. The outbreak of a hypothetical World War III would likely arise from a complex interplay of factors rather than a single cause. By examining current geopolitical tensions through the lens of historical triggers like unresolved territorial disputes, nationalistic populism, arms races, and economic rivalry, we can map out potential tipping points. Of course, the high costs of modern warfare and the stabilizing effects of global trade and nuclear deterrence make large-scale war improbable, but not inconceivable. Scenarios that could spiral out of control and lead to a WW3 include regional flashpoints. Ongoing tensions around regional flashpoints like Kashmir, Taiwan, and the South China Sea are immediate risks. These disputed territories contain complex histories, ethnicities, and nationalism mixing with military posturing. For example, Pakistan and India, both nuclear-armed states, fought multiple wars over Kashmir. Any flare-up around these contested borders could escalate quickly. Meanwhile, Taiwan remains a source of conflict, with mainland China threatening invasion should Taiwan assert independence. U.S. military obligations to allies against regional aggression raises risks of superpowers being drawn into local wars. Proxy conflicts. Ongoing civil wars in Syria, Yemen, and Libya represent conflicts where Saudi Arabia, Iran, Russia, and Western powers like the US and France back opposing sides through intelligence, military aid, economic assistance, or direct interventions. These proxy wars reflect larger geopolitical jousting for influence. Any abrupt change in the balance of power or interventions could provoke wider responses. For already devastated populations, the drumbeat of war only grows louder. Cyber warfare. The increasing sophistication of offensive cyber capabilities makes the critical infrastructure of modern nations vulnerable. Sophisticated cyber attacks on power grids, air traffic control systems, financial networks, or military C4ISR systems could cripple civil and military capacity. Tracing the origins of such attacks and responding proportionally would be hard. Cyber warfare remains below the threshold of open war but has the capacity to degrade a nation's capabilities drastically before a single shot is fired. The constant probing of US, NATO, Chinese, and Russian cyber defenses makes this a precarious domain. Economic tensions. The interconnected global economy creates immense opportunities but also dependencies and potential flashpoints. Restrictions on vital components like semiconductor chips, rubber bands holding together complex supply chains suddenly snapping under sanctions, critical resource hoarding, and attacks on financial systems could have immediate global impacts. Trade wars and regional economic blocs aligning exclusively with US or China for preferential access to markets could divide nations and alliances. Economic levers could destabilize fragile regimes and rogue states. Terrorism and rogue actors. Global terrorist groups seeking asymmetric impact like Al-Qaeda or ISIS still harbor ambitions of provoking unrest between powers by orchestrating provocative attacks. Meanwhile, rogue states like North Korea risk unpredictable actions. The theft and use of nuclear or biological weapons by such groups could generate uncontrolled retaliation. If identity of non-state attackers is misattributed to false flags, consequences could spiral. Climate pressures. Scientists predict climate change will worsen massive migration, famine, inward collapse of nations through flooding, fires, extreme weather, and drought over coming decades. This social disruption risks overflowing into neighboring regions. Desperate leaders could lash out violently to protect access to food, water, and relief aid. Climate conflicts act as threat multipliers on top of existing ethnic and nationalist strains. In such a tense geopolitical landscape, the risk of miscalculation runs high even as the costs of war have grown intolerable. Chance plays a role too: a leader's mood, errant signals, technical glitches, or fateful timing of chaotic events. The search for diplomatic off-ramps continues. Yet the echoes of 1914 remind us of the tragic possibilities when nationalism, fear, and fatalism displaced reason. Deterrence and de-escalation remain civilization's hope to avoid another plunge into the abyss that is global war. Subscribe Falcon TV for more videos. Thanks for watching.